Interesting. So you're actually selling to the clubs themselves
So we
versus.
are selling to the clubs, we are selling to the rights holders directly, we are selling to the federation also directly, which means that everyone in the flywheel who has access to content ends up eventually becoming our customer or our competitor's customer.
Whom do you support in the Premier League, Vinayak?
I used to support Manchester United after Ten Hag took over, and then I decided I don't think EPL has its fun anymore.
Okay. Is Manchester United your customer?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Nice. Awesome. I'm still a Man U fan. Hey Vinayak, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. Really looking forward to the chat. A lot of common things amongst us.
Thank you, Aviral, for having me.
Vinayak, we are starting with a rapid fire. We're trying this new format. It's imported from Bollywood. I think it works well here too. If you could be a professional in any other field, if you're not doing this, what would you do?
I think I would have become a sports coach or a trainer. I think this goes back to my school days where I was leading the school team, the school football team as a captain. I think the leadership and strategic skills in the physical arena and helping the athletes reach their peak performance would always be my desire. So I think I would have become a sports coach or a trainer, definitely.
That's pretty cool. If you could have dinner with any three people, who would they be and why?
Very interesting. There's a long list actually. Steve Jobs is definitely on that list. Um, there's Elon Musk on the list, and definitely Nelson Mandela. And three very different personalities, as we all know.
Yeah.
I think Nelson Mandela would definitely be on the list because of just Mandela's leadership in promoting reconciliation between racial groups. I think it was a testament to his commitment of how he looked at peace and justice. I think that was very interesting. I think Elon Musk, without a doubt, to just understand how do you run three companies, four companies, and then go on to do a lot more and have the bandwidth to kind of do everything that he does. And Steve Jobs, just to understand product marketing, I don't think anyone has cracked it better than him.
Hmm. Fascinating. Why do you think Steve and Elon are different?
Steve was always more of how you market a product. The innovation was done by his team around him. Elon is more hands on, and I think that's a major difference between the two.
Interesting. If you were the AJVC host, what would you ask yourself?
I think a question that we have been chatting about in our organization, remote work, in the era of AI, remote work, and rapidly evolving digital landscapes. How do you envision the next frontier of human and tech interaction? I think that'll be something that I'll ask myself.
We will ask you this
Definitely.
question.
So bootstrap versus funded.
Funded, because I'm funded.
Would you do that in any alternate universe where you would be bootstrapped?
100%. But different businesses have different needs of growing. There are certain businesses that definitely can grow without any kind of external money, and there are certain businesses that definitely require venture money to just scale up. Businesses that need to be developed before it sees revenue. I think that's a fundamental difference between bootstrap versus funded. But yes, if I would want to build a business which is bootstrapped, surely I would love to do that.
3 startups you would invest in today.
I don't think I have an answer for that because I don't invest in startups. So if
Three startups you would love to be part of in some manner.
no, in fact, I keep telling this to everyone. Whenever and anyhow I keep getting money, I would love to keep investing in my own business because I believe in it so much. So I think the biggest takeaway for me has been always that whenever there is need of capital in my life to invest extra capital in my life to invest somewhere, it should be my business first and not somewhere else. Other than that, if there are two other startups that I would love to be a part of, specifically, I think I would love to invest in Lenskart. Very interesting business.
Choice. Why so?
Lenskart very interestingly solves a very unique problem, and I'm a user of Lenskart, so everything that I wear is Lenskart. I remember how difficult it was to kind of figure out the entire journey of buying spectacles. Go to the optician, kind of get your eye checked, and then number putting in, and wait for a week, if not anything, and suddenly in 2 days the specs used to come home. So it definitely solved a big problem for me. Uh, and third company, I don't think I have an answer. I can get back to you, but probably before the end of the podcast.
That's fine.
Generalist versus specialist.
Generalist.
That's how you set up most of your teams, and or has that's evolved as you've gone along.
Yeah, I think that's how we have set up our team. We all the leaders in the company are usually generalists, and the reason for that is it just kind of makes cross-functional working very easy. When you're working with a specialist, there's always a certain degree of kind of limitations in what you have to operate in. I think that's one of the reasons why we personally prefer generalist within the company, at least.
Understand. And the final rapid fire question: what is one truth that you really believe in that very few people agree with you on?
Interesting. In fact, Mazin was telling me about this before it started. I got some time to think about it. I think one truth few people agree with me on is the traditional education system. I think rooted deeply in centuries old methodologies, and progressively misaligned with the demands of our contemporary world today. Right, in these systems, they've been in place have significant emphasis and on standardized test grades and memorization. You have to kind of remember things. They often neglect the cultivation of critical soft skills, which are very important in today's world. And I think as we go into this new world dominated by AI, automation, rapid technology advancements, it's not just about what you know, and but it's also about how you adapt, unlearn, and relearn.
Understand. No, super. And we share a city where we grew up. So you grew up in Pune, I grew up in Pune.
Yeah.
Uh, One, what are your views on it in shaping your entrepreneurial journey, if any? And second, what's your view of it now, maybe as an insider, outsider, as a startup ecosystem that's coming up?
So I think Pune played a very fundamental and important role in my life. And the reason why I say it is obviously because I grew up there. But not only because I grew up there, because the atmosphere around was very, very, very. The right word would be the right word wouldn't be competitive, but the right word would be it was challenging enough, right? It gave us enough time to kind of go and do different things, which means that more than studies, go and kind of pursue other activities outside your regular course, but also just the different type of people that come and stay in Pune. And you've been staying in Pune, so you'll kind of resonate to this. It's not really one set of community of people. Various people from different parts of the country that really come together, and because it's a educational hub, you have a lot of students coming in from different parts of the India, and which kind of just makes it more interesting, more exciting, because then you have so many different cultures to kind of grow up while you're kind of growing up in Pune. I think that was a very important part and special about Pune for me. And to your second question, I think I haven't really experienced Pune as emerging startup capital, but I've heard great things. There are quite a few good companies in Pune.
Right.
Mindtickle being one of them. But obviously, Pune has its own interesting kind of opportunities with the entire IT infrastructure that's built in Pune, and with the educational hub being in Pune, it's just getting more interesting day by day because a lot of students are coming, and then Pune is just 2 hours away from Bombay. It just makes it accessible to everyone, and the cost centers are massively different. So if you If in today's world you want to do a startup, you wouldn't want to do it in Bangalore or in Bombay. You rather go to a place like Pune where there's talent and the costs are yet not that high.
This trend of moving to Pune, I think that it's not happening very rapidly, but I do see it happening. Do you think that people will wake up to this cost structure, talent pool, and move out of cities like Bangalore?
I think it's already happening. People are trying to move out of cities like Bangalore and Bangalore and Bombay. Sorry, and the reason for that is Pune gives you everything that maybe a city like Bangalore and Bombay could give you,
Right.
but a lot more. It's just that um, the overall the overall kind of real estate in Pune is affordable. And I think life has to be affordable for you to be able to kind of do new things. You can't be staying in Bombay and trying to kind of do a startup. It's just not, I think, conducive. The environment is not conducive. You need an environment that can support you. The weather has to be good, which is great in Pune. And also it's just easy. Life is a little easy in Pune. So in fact, when I was chatting with one of my friends last week who's now recently moved from SFO to Miami, there's a lot of relevance that we are talking about how different cities in US also are kind of realizing that you don't have to be in SF or in New York to do a startup. You can actually be in a low cost center to do a startup, I think. And because of the growing talent pool in Pune of the entire education hub there, it's getting interesting. I think a lot of people will start relocating to Pune.
Makes sense. I mean, I think that it is happening. An interesting thing I had at least seen is that I think there's 7 or 8 unicorns from Pune. You mentioned Mindtickle. There's obviously First Cry, and it's 3 companies. There's Dhruva. A lot of SaaS exports actually came from here. There's even Elastic Run that's Pune based. At
Correct.
least my view is I feel the founders who start in Pune, they tend to be less experimental, unlike Bangalore founders who want to try a lot of things and they're like, we'll put our heads down, build this for 3 years. And I think it's a less noisy also market, so there's an upside there. Obviously, nothing beats the energy of Bangalore's entrepreneurship, but I think Pune is starting to build a vibe as well. So that's fair. I think it will emerge it already is an important center. I think it'll emerge as a pretty big center as we grow.
Yeah,
Um,
very interestingly, you brought that point up, and maybe something that you can also help me understand. Do you really think the energy is that important while you're building a startup, or do you think the focus is more important?
I think a very good question, actually. I don't know if you can choose one. I'll tell you at least, like from a venture investor's perspective, what we look for. We look for both. But if I had to choose between two, I would say energy is what we would optimize for, because focus comes with age. Is something we have seen. I think at least my view is, and I studied physics when I was in college. I think companies die because they run out of energy, not because they run out of money. Like it just becomes so hard for their energy to keep going that they give up, right? And the example is there's a company which has 100K in its bank, but people are just building, and not giving up. And there could be a company that says 100 million and it shuts down, maybe because the founders have run out of energy. So I think energy is very important at the stage at which we invest. I think eventually, as you scale, the founders who make the transition from having this like bundle of energy and then focusing it, I think they're the ones who scale. So energy is very important for 0 to 1, but I think eventually, if you're not able to channel it and focus, then you fail as a scaled entrepreneur. But energy is absolutely necessary to start. Like if you have focus but no energy, nothing's going to happen, because you have to try so many things. I'm sure if you reflect on your history as well as a founder, energy would have been a very big component in your early days. Like you might have been trying a lot of things and not saying no to anything. Even
Correct. Absolutely. I think energy definitely was very important, but there's also a sense of maturity which comes in, right? Like an average age of an entrepreneur starting up in Pune, trying to do a startup will be fairly more mature than
yes,
someone trying to do this in Bangalore. So I think that kind of changes a few things. If you're 35 and you're starting up, the excitement level is fairly settled, is what
Yeah.
I would say. The focus areas are much higher because you're not trying to experiment with 10 different ideas. And
Right.
because there's less noise, that means there's not enough investor money chasing you, which means that you're trying to kind of build with whatever you have.
Correct.
Uh,
No,
I think
absolutely.
that's something that's fundamentally stuck with me for a while, because I met a founder recently. He started a shoe company in Pune, fairly mature. And after meeting him, I realized that entrepreneurs in Pune genuinely try and kind of give it more time and are more patient with their processes. Their energy level definitely is not at the same pace as someone in Bangalore or Delhi or even Mumbai, for an example, but far more maturity in terms of how they think about their businesses.
No, no, absolutely. And I think there's no one right way to start a business and there's no one right way to invest. So
Yeah.
both work, in my opinion. But I truly think that the founders who struggle from the transition in a 0 to 1 stage to a 1 to 10 stage, like there are many focused entrepreneurs who are mature, but they just lack that energy to
Yeah.
that hump of discovering what they want to do, and they get stuck there. And then there are those really high energy founders who just like try everything and then they don't want to commit to anything. So that also is a problem.
But
But
what I'm taking away from this is that you look for energy more than the area of focus at the start, and then as the businesses mature, the
right,
founders tend to mature, and then the focus area
at
comes.
least our hope is that yes, maybe they don't, and then I think the company gets kind of stuck.
Yeah.
But because I'm a seed investor, I just do 0 to 1 specifically. Um, this is my rubric. And finally, like on the VC topic, so you were a VC for a very short time period.
Yeah.
Any reason why you did it and why did you drop it? It was not fun, which is what I guess. But why did you just try it out and then just drop it?
So I tried it out because I was the only opportunity that was willing to pay me enough that would help me cover my student loan. So it was purely out of just the intent of trying to make up my student loan money as fast as possible. When I joined, it was filled with excitement and a lot of energy. There was a huge buzz that was there in the Silicon Valley of venture ecosystem and this and that, and people were just kind of starting in India. I think 2015 people barely knew too many VCs in the country. Also, it's only in the last few years that the ecosystem has really flourished. I think the reason why I left was just after a year. I think I did not do justice to my role. I wasn't really kind of understanding the venture business well, which means that there was a hungry side to me, meeting founders, meeting various entrepreneurs in their different stages of life, just seeing their excitement and obviously thriving on their energy, like you said, right? Kind of just made me realize that I think I have the energy to do something. I shouldn't be using that and channelizing that energy here right now. And that was one of the reasons why I kind of left it sooner than most people would. There wasn't too many things around it. And it kind of obviously taught me a few things along the journey, but yeah.
So let's dive into your journey. So after a short stint in VC, what happened next? How did you get to VideoVerse? What was the genesis for the idea?
I started in 2016, and I was doing this actually not full time. This was like more like a part time gig back then. Started the company with an intent that we will solve interesting media problems for various clients. Along that, I took a couple of consulting gigs with media companies like Warner Brothers, Universal Studios. We are solving actually a very interesting problem. We are trying to figure out if content could be buffered under low bandwidth. And this was back in 2016 when there was barely 4G in the country. 3G was the medium for everyone's mobile devices, but mobile penetration was there very aggressively, which means that a lot of people were trying to enter the Indian market or trying to figure out partnerships to enter the Indian market. Only that they realized that mobile connectivity is still to improve in India. Spent some time trying to go deep into it. Made quite a few connections in the media industry because of it, because we are studying this in detail. Submitted a report to say that everything is possible in India and you should explore it only after the connectivity improves. Before that is just going to be a waste of time and money. You're going to try and solve the connectivity problem before you're going to try and solve anything else. So that's something that kind of made me get closer to the media world, in which we tried solving quite a few problems. We tried solving a problem of trying to kind of identify, clothes within the content, and do affiliate marketing with e-commerce websites. Didn't really work great. We created a mobile editing app, uh, and which obviously we realized as soon as we launched that it requires more money to market it. You can't just launch an app and hope people are just going to virally download it. And then obviously through the conversations with a few possible customers back then that now are our loyal customers, we realized.
For your editing app,
Yeah.
for the initial editing.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. We realized that there's actually a problem statement to be solved in the media industry, which is editing. It had been a decade; no one really saw any innovation done in the editing space. We went to Hotstar back then, and we spoke to them and realized that there's a problem statement that they are trying to address, which is how can you automate the editing workflow, and can we get the highlights out before someone actually shoots it on the mobile phones and uploads it on social media. That's how the genesis of the idea came in. So it was more of we trying to solve a customer's problem that gave an idea to us that resulted in VideoVerse being where it is today.
And so walk us through that journey. So you stumbled into this problem with Hotstar. How did you go about building something out that worked for them? And
So
were they your first customers?
yeah, they were actually one of our first few customers. The problem statement was fairly simple. Star had spent close to around 2.1 billion in acquiring rights for IPL and other cricket properties. It was very, very important for them to try and monetize as much as they could, which means that the clips had to be pushed out as fast as possible. The problem was this was being done manually. They had an army of editors sitting on the sixth floor at the Star building that was actually realizing moments in real time. So, Virat Kohli is just at a four, identify it, create a content, download it onto your Premiere Pro, which means there is time loss,
Oh, yes.
edit the content, and then upload it back. So now you've wasted time in downloading, you're wasting time in editing, and you're also
Would-
wasting time in uploading it. So there was like a
yeah.
massive workflow that had to be kind of, done, which means that at times highlights used to take anywhere between an hour to 2 hours to even get out, because the workflows were that difficult. So the problem statement they wanted to solve was, can we engage the customers on our app itself to continuously keep watching highlights? That is what they were trying to kind of solve for. We solved it actually very interesting. The first instance how we solved it was we just kind of created a Scully marker, which means that we were able to kind of just do a time in and time out. We did nothing else. So we said that when a run up is happening for a bowler to bowl, we will do a time in, and as soon as there is a timeout, we would do a timeout, and the clip would then get generated and directly be published.
Uh,
So you don't do too much
so
of,
just
yeah. So you don't do too
of the
much
ball.
editing on top of it. And it kind of
Okay.
solved a very simple problem back then. It wasn't trying to solve a difficult problem. It was solving a simple problem, time in, time out. Over a period of time, we started realizing that it does not have to be a time in and time out. There are ways to identify the time in and time out, which is you kind of start building modules, understanding there is vision to be done on it, and then you understand when a bowler is going for a run up, call that as a time in. As soon as there is a OCR change or the bowler run up is over and the ball motion has changed or the camera angle has changed, you know that the moment is over. You do a timeout. So then the technology started evolving, and then we started kind of going from one customer base to the other. So cricket was the first sport that we tackled. Then we started solving for football. Then we started solving for tennis. The first paying customer that we ended up landing was in 2018, and then from there on, we just kind of did most of the major events in India until 2019. And 2020, when pandemic kicked in, was the actual kind of acceleration that we got, because a lot of the people wanted to use their archival content, and we were at the kind of center where we were trying to help them say that so much amount of content, how do you really edit it, and how do you publish it? And the problem with these content are that they are expensive, so you really can't push it outside their network also. So you need a system where the content can stay within their network.
Right. So during COVID, there were no live events. So of course, this became more relevant. And were you still focusing on clients in India then, or had you already started to branch out as you looked at more sports? How did you kind of?
Until 2019 mid, we were very much focused on the Indian customers. 2020 post March is when we actually started going after the foreign clients. Majority of our foreign customers came in during the first 6 months of COVID. And we just saw the acceleration because a lot of people were just trying to experiment. They're like a video editor, and the cost bases were very fairly simple. A video editor would cost you $50,000 to $60,000 a year in US, versus how the solution would cost them $10,000 a year. So, and obviously you couldn't do simultaneous editing, but you could queue up the editing, and you could only do editing for the relevant content, which made a lot of sense for them to kind of start subscribing to the platform.
And were you looking at creators also, Vinayak, or was it an enterprise focus play?
It was completely an enterprise focus play. We weren't looking at any creators back then. In fact, funny that you brought that up, because we have gone through that entire cycle now. Now, after doing that for the last few years, with the new product that we have recently launched called Illusto, we're now again focusing back on the creators. So from the cycle of where we launched a video editing mobile app to now bringing it back onto web and saying that now we'll start supporting the individual creators also is a full cycle for us.
I'm curious, you mentioned this earlier that this video editing space had been relatively untouched, versus other areas, e-commerce, finance, where there were so many startups working on it. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it was such a untackled space?
I think it wasn't that exciting, right? I think if it wasn't for pandemic, a lot of us wouldn't have gone digital, right?
It was an unsexy business. Unsexy businesses are the best ones to build on.
I think no one looked at the video side that aggressively before pandemic, to be very honest, right? Musically did it very, very well. Obviously, TikTok then bought them over, but a lot of people didn't focus on video as much, right? People were just focused on everything else that was important. And there were only two big players in the market that were really focused on editing, which was Premiere Pro and Final Cut Pro. They are even today. But if you keep looking at Adobe's quarterly earnings, every quarter they are expanding their own TAM, which tells everyone that how important video has become in today's lifestyle for us. Everything that we consume is around videos. And in fact, there was a very interesting conversation I had with one of our old colleagues in the company, where he said we should do something around text or audio. And I still remember that we're like, wait for a couple of years. I think text and audio both are going to be irrelevant for a lot of audiences. It's only going to be around video. And cut to where we are right now in 2023, it's all about video. There's hardly anything to do with text. Audio still lives, but it's mainly video.
No, absolutely. And on that note, with TikTok, Instagram Reels, and a lot of short form video content, do you see a shift between long form and short form? And are you seeing behaviors in what your customers are asking for changing as well, or is it still constant?
No, big time. I think you guys will resonate to this a lot more. I think short form content is here to stay. People are more interested in watching bite-sized format contents more than long form content. And the reason for that is fairly simple. In today's life, for Aviral, for you, Mazin, obviously, our lives are so dynamic that there's barely a stretch of time that we get to kind of spend on our screens trying to consume long form content. Which absolutely kind of then results to switching over to a short form content. And that's why you see a lot of these live events, live games, or even movies these days. The only reason why the archival content, or there is a reason why people are watching the full form content, is because they're getting excited by watching the short form content. How many times have you gone to Instagram Reel, seen maybe a trailer of 15-20 seconds, gotten excited by the trailer, and then gone and seen the actual movie? The percentage of that has just grown a lot more in the last few years. Even when it comes to following a live game, right? I remember when we were growing up, we used to actually get together at a friend's house, and we all used to stay in Baner and Pune, and we used to get together at a friend's house and watch the entire EPL match. Versus today, everyone's just sharing the highlights with each other, because the highlight and the moments are getting created in real time. So people are just sharing those. People are not following the live game as such. People are following it through scores and through these smaller events. So there's definitely a shift. I think the short form content is here to stay. It's just media companies have also started realizing this, and that's why you see all of us kind of moving quicker towards the short form content.
What's the hardest part for you as a founder, especially starting up? Like, what do you think was, reflecting back on your journey, what was the most challenging period for you?
I think it was always about getting people excited to join us. I think we didn't have the backing of great VC names. So, which means that we couldn't excite people by saying that, oh, we are backed by XYZ, you should come work with us. That was the most difficult and the most challenging part for us, right? When you're actually trying to tell people why they should be joining you and you don't have too much of venture money or very little of any venture money to kind of say that, we will pay you. You don't have to worry about your next month's salary. I think that was the most difficult part of building videos. And that's something that I'm actually thankful that, that's how we built the company, because that's kind of resonated very well with everyone who joins us today. They understand what they're kind of, joining. There's genuine business around the table, which means that people are excited about the problem that we're trying to solve.
Is it easier now to attract people given video has become so hot?
It's easier. It's definitely easier. But still, there's always that, and you will resonate to this better. There's always that question that, what's your valuation? How much are you funded? Who's your investor? All those things. But it's okay. The world is slowly changing. People are realizing that, there's not unlimited capital in the market, so businesses are not going to get funded forever. You have
Right.
to join businesses that are actually making money. So I think we are attracting the right set of people. We are not just attracting people; we are attracting the right set of people, and we're happy with it. We're happy with the set of team that we're building around the table today.
And what are your products that this team has built today? Like, can you talk about what is your suite of products? Who are you serving? And maybe related to that, where your customers are? What's the split like?
Sure. At VideoVerse today, we have two different products. One is called as Magnifi. The other one is called as Illusto. Magnifi is the key moments and highlight generation tool. It uses AI ML modules like OCR, Vision, and LP to track moments and publish them. Illusto is our web-based manual editor that allows editors like us to, upload content and edit it without actually needing the knowledge or the expensive hardwares to edit content anymore. And in fact, you guys should try it. We would kind of get a good feedback from you guys.
We
Uh,
will, for sure.
Illusto is fairly a new product. Magnifi has been there in the market since 2018. Illusto has just been in the market this year. Other than that, we ended up acquiring a company earlier this year from US called as Really.ai, which does similar to what Magnifi does, but it solves a problem in the e-gaming industry. So it kind of allows you to create key moments and highlights out of your e-gaming live streams. So you could be live streaming maybe a CSGO or, a Fortnite game, and in that all the action items can be created into short form content, then you can publish on Instagram and TikTok and so on.
And these are enterprises that are buying these tools from you, also creators, like who,
Right.
what's the
So
customer base like?
Magnifi's customer base is completely enterprise. It's not built for individual use cases. And the
Right.
reason for that is because the modules developed at Magnify are specific. So, say sports, right? It's specific to the sports use cases, and it's solving entertainment and news, but it's also specific to those use cases. And so, we haven't really built for different use cases beyond the three areas that we spoke about. Illusto is manual, so it does not really bother or matter what kind of content genre you're really uploading, and really is focused on e-gaming. So the customer base that Magnifi serves today is OTT platforms, sports teams, broadcasters, sports leagues, so on and so forth. What Illusto serves is creators and SMBs, small companies that have the need for video editing but don't really have too much of resources or money to kind of buy hardwares and Premiere Pro licenses and so on, and really is solving for best of both worlds, individual streamers as well as enterprises that actually focus on doing these large e-gaming tournaments today.
Understand. And what sort of scale are you at today in
The
terms of products? if you can share.
Sure. The company today, in total, the entire company today is close to around $50 odd million.
In revenue. Understand. And is the majority on the Magnifi?
Yes.
Okay. Understand. This Illusto is a new product.
Fairly, it's doing some revenues, but not sizable enough yet.
Understand. And the GTM strategies for the two may be very different. How do you manage that? Like one is a B2B sales, one is a almost like a B2C PLG kind of motion.
Correct. So obviously at Illusto, like you said, we run all the digital campaigns that we can. It's still very experimental for us, so we're very cautious with what kind of campaigns we're running, what kind of audiences we want to attract. We're also targeting countries where there are genuinely paying customers that are there for us. When it comes to Magnifi, obviously the GTM is on-field sales, pre-sales, inside sales to kind of establish. So we have set up teams now in Europe, London, and US that run field sales for us, and we run pre-sales and inside sales back from India.
Understand. Very, very interesting. What is the hardest part of selling to a B2B client which is very focused on content?
I think they all want to understand, can they benefit or can they make money by using a tool, which means that tying your product to an ROI for themselves. And media industry traditionally has been the most difficult to change. If you have spoken to any of the people in the media industry, you will realize that they're very averse to changes. New things are very slowly adopted in the industry. They don't like too many changes. When the entire transformation happened, where people started using full DVRs versus 15-minute DVRs, that in itself was a massive change. So people go through a lot of resistance in the media industry. They want to see money before they buy something. That's the
Right.
most important thing for them.
Hmm.
And I think pandemic helped us, where they realized that sometimes tools don't have to help you make money. Tools
Right.
have to solve a simple problem, which is creating content at scale. If that can be done, you have to figure out how to make money. I think that's helped us. I think if we would have been in the race of trying to help them figure out how to make money, we wouldn't have scaled, because then it's very difficult to justify with every time they subscribe to your platform. How are you actually helping them make money?
And curious, because it's not like a lot of companies have tried to do it. It's not always easy to export your product, especially if you build something for India. I know that you had a very specific need and problem that you're solving for your customers, but you also set up field offices in these different countries. How did you go about expanding? How did you pick countries to launch?
So the sports was very dominant in the European market and the US market. More so over in the European market, because the variety of sports played in the European market was far more than what it was in the US market. The US market is
Yeah.
very focused on a couple of sports, and it definitely has the market for other sports, but it was very focused on a couple of sports. A CRO, when she joined back in 2020, she had a very clear kind of thought process that the teams that we will set up in different countries have to be about chasing the sports. So when we set up a team in Europe, it was all about chasing football. So the idea was
Got
to
it.
go after all the leagues that's possible, and in leagues go as deep as the tier 3, tier 4, right? Where everyone till the point where players are getting paid, you go as downstream as possible. And if you're able to do that, you'll able to kind of solve for. So then we started kind of hiring people according to the native languages in that country and that region specifically. That's how we went about scaling up our team. And over a period of time, we just realized that once you're solved for one sport and someone has heard of you, the word spreads around faster. So if you crack someone, say in an EPL, you cracked one team, it's easier to pitch to the next customer. So
Hmm.
you don't really need too many field sales to go after the same line of customers. You just add new set of customers to go after a different sport.
Interesting. So you're actually selling to the clubs themselves
So we
versus.
are selling to the clubs, we are selling to the rights holders directly, we are selling to the federation also directly, which means that everyone in the flywheel who has access to content ends up eventually becoming our customer or our competitor's customer.
Whom do you support in the Premier League, Vinayak?
I used to support Manchester United after Ten Hag took over, and then I decided I don't think EPL has its fun anymore.
Okay. Is Manchester United your customer?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Nice. Awesome. I'm still a Manu fan.
Oh,
Haven't.
great. Do you have the Manu app with you?
No. Yeah,
You should
guys powering that.
download it. You'll see a lot of these short moments and clips that keep circulating on that app on a daily basis.
Interesting.
Very cool.
Interesting. Do you see an opportunity in India for something like this, given the variety of languages and cross pollination? Is there a big play here in India?
Honestly, I don't know yet. There is a lot of content in India, and especially when you go regional, there's just so much amount of content that can be utilized. But I don't know how the opportunity is going to unlock over the next few years. Because the only reason why someone will want to subscribe is when they're able to publish the content also somewhere, and there has to be viewership to it, right?
Right.
Um, I think I should be asking you this: do you think there is possibly a play for us beyond just sports and entertainment in India? Do you think the opportunity is going to unlock? Because you see the content and the creator market more closely than we do. Do you think there is some unlocking opportunities that's happening that we are probably not seeing right now?
Beyond entertainment and sports, so I actually look at. Maybe it's a bit of a digression, but it'll help give context. So, in history, before the 1800s, there was nothing like a job. Everyone was a solo entrepreneur in some sense, right? The purpose of organizations was created so that you reduce transaction costs and build trust, right? Why do people work for you? Because you can trust them because they work for you. But this whole concept of an organization came, 200 years back. Before that, everyone was a solo entrepreneur, and large people were solo creators. I think with the internet, what has happened is the transaction cost and the cost of establishing trust has reduced so much that people don't need to be in companies anymore, which is the rise of the creators eventually, right? I think a lot of the world will move to solo, and a lot of the world will move to actually creating, as most of the basic stuff is getting solved by tech and other such things. I fundamentally think that in India, it's almost like a continent that's waiting to spread its wings. Um, the number of languages that are spoken, if you look at the top 10 languages spoken in the world, half of them are Indian. I honestly think that there will be a lot more production houses, content studios, and others that will come that are regional, that will need some sort of tool to scale and produce faster. Like I'm sure there are, I think, 20 or 30 OTTs. Like there's a Bangla OTT that's
Yeah.
really large, etc. So I fundamentally think that these languages are so large by themselves. Like imagine a channel for French, right? It's very big because so many people speak Punjabi as well or Telugu. And it's not just India; it's also the US. I mean, I don't know if there is content just as entertainment and sports. If I look at it a little differently, I think of it as ephemeral and eternal content. So ephemeral is sports, which has high utility, time related. So if you watch United's match, when the goal happens, its value is the maximum. That's why live streaming rights sell for the most. But highlights are, not that valuable and as valuable as live. And then, you have YouTube, which probably has a long tail. Versus eternal content, which is what most of Netflix plays. In fact, Hotstar has made like this very strong pivot from being an ephemeral content platform to more eternal with its uh, TV shows and programming. But like before it gave up IPL, it was always a very ephemeral content focused platform. So, I mean, in that dimension, I think all languages could have certain players come out. I don't know the tools they'll need. I think they'll need tools to produce. And like funnily enough, I found Indian companies to be more tech savvy than American companies. It's a bit strange, but it's true. Like we have a company that makes manufacturing SaaS for uh, manufacturing companies, and they were surprised to find that Indian steelmaking companies were far more advanced than European or American steelmaking companies in tech. which you wouldn't expect, right? I mean, we all think, oh, they are so advanced. They're not.
Yeah.
So I think the adoption in India, and again, I don't know what tool they will use, but I definitely think they will use tools either to dub, either to create or generate more content which is useful. I think there will be tools, and I think the next question I wanted to ask you was around AI and its utility for generating video, images. Are you guys implementing diffusion models or any sort of AI in how you're scaling? But fundamentally, I do think there's an opportunity. I don't know what shape it will take, but I definitely think that this ecosystem is going to grow so much.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of companies that will need tools to produce. Fundamentally, like you had very rightly brought up musically in the beginning. To me, like TikTok success was not because it's a viral platform, but because it was the fastest short reel generating tool on the planet. That's why it worked, right? I mean, it took 3 hours of production value to 3 minutes. It got
Correct.
sync, audio, etc. And I think in this ephemeral, eternal, different languages, different formats, audio, text, video, blah blah, there will be place. So I'm like quite bullish, but it's like Europe in my head almost.
No, very interesting. We use. You should try Illusto. You'll definitely find a lot of these that we have used back in Illusto. We haven't tried rebuilding a lot of things. We have in fact used what's readily available also. Quite a few things on the Illusto platform. In fact, when we were building it, a lot of people came and told us, "Oh, you should spend time and money on trying to build something." Which is IP to you. And I was like, it's a waste of time. Why would you do that when there's already something built in the market? You might as well just use that and kind of see if your platform can support it.
Right.
So yeah,
No, makes sense. And where do you see the utility of machine learning here, and your view on the content industry with ML and your future plans?
I think there's going to be a heavy focus around personalized content generation. It's something we are also very closely working on and following right now. We feel that even in the replay or the highlight space, right? How many times do you see a highlight that is not relevant to what you really wanted to watch? Say,
Right.
you're a fan of, uh, while growing up, all of us were fans of Ronaldo and Messi, right? We would go on YouTube to search for their content all the time.
Right.
What if the content was more personalized around them for the entire event, right? It would just help you watch the or follow the game much better, which means that personalize the content for the users to watch it as per their own preferences, which is very, very important, and that's where the world is headed towards. I think that's something that a lot of us are going to continuously keep seeing, and I think with the capability to generate content tailored to individual preferences, I think AI will play a very pivotal role in crafting personalized content experiences.
Understand. What's the future for you guys? What's the plan ahead?
Quite a few things. I think interactive and dynamic content. We're working on automated reporting right now. A lot of our customers keep asking for, we would love to understand how the content is working, not working. Quite a few times we had to tell them that you'll have to give us access to your platform and scripts, but they're like, no, you tell us a way how you can figure out. So there's a lot of new tools that are coming in the market that allow you to kind of do fingerprinting on a video and still trace the video. So that's something that we're working on right now. I think content filtering and curation is going to be very, very critical of what we were just covering right now, right? Content that is specific to our needs. And I think language translation and global reach is another important aspect which we are working on. Something that we picked up as a experimental project, which is still very experimental, is assisted writing and editing.
Right.
Uh, can we help you edit your content in an assistive manner, right?
Right.
Which will help you save hours of table work that usually goes around video editing.
Amazing. And just to close, why we call this Founders Unfiltered, what's one piece of unfiltered advice you received as a founder that really changed your perspective and made you think differently?
Uh, Interesting. I think something that really stuck with me was a few years back during a performance review. One of my colleagues had mentioned this to me, right? You're excellent at presenting solution, but sometimes it seems like you're not really listening to the problem, which means that I was not really hearing them out, which meant that I
Right.
it kind of caught me off guard because I had always prided myself on being solution oriented. Actually, when I reflected back on that feedback, I realized that in my eagerness to solve these problems very quickly, and it happens with a lot of us, right? A lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people, not even entrepreneurs, a lot of people, when they are trying to solve problems very quickly, in that eagerness, they would jump to conclusions without fully understanding the nuances of a problem. I think this feedback significantly shifted, may helped me shift my approach. I
Right.
started getting more time to actively listening, asking questions, and ensuring I truly understood the problem before offering solutions.
Right.
And it's not necessary for me to have the solution all the time. At times, it's okay for me to not have answers and just be the dumb one in the room. It's better than trying to just give advices all the time. I think that's something that stuck with me, and I think that piece of advice was a game changer for me. I think it taught me a lot of things, and the most important to understand. It's more important to be to understand than to be understood. That's what it taught.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Vinayak, for the chat. We really enjoyed it. Thank you all for tuning in.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Masin.